Captain Marcus Webb had seen 17 worlds die before he turned 30. The Convergence War had carved through the outer rim like a scalpel through flesh, precise and merciless. Now, at 34, he piloted the salvage vessel Redemption's Edge through the debris field that had once been the Corvathi trade station Epsilon 7. His scanner pinged, not debris, something biological. "Computer, magnify Sector 7 Alpha," Marcus commanded, leaning forward in his acceleration couch. The holographic display sharpened, revealing a twisted fragment of hull plating. Pressed against the transparent aluminum viewport were 5 faces, humanoid but distinctly alien. Their skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythmic distress. Corvathi, the species everyone had written off as extinct 3 months ago. Marcus's jaw tightened. The Corvathi had been neutral during the war, their crime being nothing more than existing in territory both sides wanted. The Convergence had sterilized their worlds with relativistic kinetic strikes. No survivors, the reports had claimed. These 5 proved the reports wrong. The fragment tumbled slowly in the void, its atmosphere already venting through microfractures. Marcus could see the frost forming on the inner surface of their refuge. They had hours at most, maybe less. His hands moved across the control surface, calculating trajectories. The Redemption's Edge was a small ship, a Sparrow-class courier retrofitted for salvage operations. 2 crew quarters, a cargo hold that could fit perhaps 20 people if they didn't mind standing, and life support rated for a crew of 3 with emergency capacity for 6. 5 Corvathi would push those limits. The holographic display zoomed closer. He could see their faces clearly now, young, desperate. One of them, her bioluminescent markings flashing in rapid sequence, pressed her 3-fingered hand against the viewport. Even through the vacuum, Marcus could read the universal language of desperation. "Save me." His tactical training kicked in immediately. The fragment's spin was irregular, destabilized by the venting atmosphere. He'd need to match rotation, extend the docking collar, and hard seal before the fragment tore itself apart. Standard procedure would be to call it in, wait for a proper rescue vessel with adequate facilities. Standard procedure would take 48 hours minimum. These girls had 3, optimistically. Marcus initiated the approach sequence. "Computer, prepare emergency docking protocols. Route all non-essential power to life support. We're bringing passengers aboard." "Warning," the ship's AI intoned in its flat, emotionless voice. "Current life support capacity insufficient for sustained operation with 7 biological entities. Recommend." "Override," Marcus snapped. "Authorization Web 77 Tango." "Override accepted. Initiating docking sequence." The Redemption's Edge was humanity's answer to the cosmos. Not elegant, not beautiful, but functional and relentlessly efficient. Where other species built ships like works of art, humans built machines that refused to quit. Marcus had once seen a human freighter, half its hull missing, limp into port on backup systems that hadn't been activated in 30 years. They fired up like they'd been serviced yesterday. That stubborn refusal to accept defeat was what made humanity simultaneously feared and respected across 3 spiral arms. It took Marcus 22 minutes to match the fragment's chaotic rotation. The docking collar extended with a pneumatic hiss, magnetic clamp seeking purchase on the twisted metal. The first attempt failed, the fragment spin too erratic. The second attempt caught, held for 3 seconds, then slipped. Through the viewport, he could see the Corvathi girls watching. Their bioluminescent patterns had shifted from distress-orange to something that might have been hope, a soft blue-green that reminded Marcus of Earth's oceans before the war. Third attempt. The clamps engaged, locked, and the collar's cutting laser began its work. 30 seconds to breach the hull. Marcus was already in his emergency suit, checking the atmospheric readings of the fragment's interior. 0.3 atmospheres. mostly nitrogen and carbon dioxide. The oxygen had been consumed hours ago. They were surviving on whatever their physiology could scrape from the thin air, and even that was running out. The breach completed. Marcus cycled the airlock and bitter cold flooded in, carrying the acrid smell of burnt circuitry and fear. He pulled himself through into the fragment. All 5 Corvathi girls were conscious, barely. They hung in the microgravity, their bodies shaking from cold and oxygen deprivation. Up close, Marcus could see they were adolescents, maybe the equivalent of human teenagers. Their environmental suits were torn, patched with what looked like melted plastic and desperation. The one who had pressed her hand to the viewport earlier looked at Marcus with eyes that had too many colors in them: purple, gold, silver, all shifting like oil on water. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed weakly. "Please," she said in halting, heavily accented standard. "Please, take us with you." Her voice was hoarse, damaged from the thin atmosphere. Behind her, another girl, smaller, her markings almost entirely dark, reached out with a trembling hand. Marcus didn't hesitate. "Can you move?" he asked, his voice crackling through the suit's external speaker. The first girl nodded. We help each other." "Good, follow me, stay close. We don't have much time." He guided them through the airlock in 2 trips, 3 girls first, then returning for the remaining 2. The smaller one had lost consciousness, and Marcus had to carry her, her body surprisingly light in the microgravity. Her skin was cold, too cold, but her bioluminescent markings still pulsed faintly. Still alive. Once all 5 were aboard the Redemption's Edge, Marcus sealed the airlock and initiated emergency pressurization. The ship groaned as it diverted power, life support systems spinning up to compensate for the sudden increase in biological load. The Corvathi girls huddled in the small cargo bay, breathing in desperate gasps as oxygen flooded their starved lungs. Marcus pulled off his helmet and immediately began triage. The unconscious one first. He checked her vitals with a handheld scanner. Severe hypoxia, hypothermia, but stable. She'd live if they could get her warm and maintain oxygen levels. "What are your names?" Marcus asked as he worked, wrapping the unconscious girl in thermal blankets from the emergency supplies. The one who had spoken before, the apparent leader, met his eyes. "I am Lyrian. This is my sister, Kessie," she gestured to the unconscious girl. "These are Tala, Morven, and she." Each name was accompanied by a gesture, and each girl responded with a weak pulse of their bioluminescent markings. A greeting, Marcus realized. A sign of acknowledgement. "Marcus Webb," he replied. "Captain of this vessel, you're safe now." Lyrian's eyes shimmered with what might have been tears, though Corvathi physiology was different enough that Marcus couldn't be sure. "Everyone else is dead," she said quietly. "The station. The convergence ships came without warning. We were in the training module when the strike hit. It broke away from the main structure. We survived because we were forgotten." "How long have you been out here?" Marcus asked, already running calculations. The station had been destroyed 73 days ago. 10 weeks, Lyrian confirmed. "We rationed everything, water, food, air, but it ran out 3 days ago. We thought we would die like everyone else." Marcus looked at the 5 of them, young, traumatized, the last survivors of a genocide. Standard procedure said he should take them to the nearest coalition station, file a report, let the bureaucracy handle it. But Marcus had seen what happened to refugees caught in the bureaucratic machinery. They disappeared into camps, into processing centers, into the vast indifferent system that moved too slowly for the dying. "Computer," he said, "plot a course for New Ganymede, maximum burn." "Warning," the AI responded. "Life support overload will reach critical levels in 96 hours at current consumption rates. New Ganymede is 143 hours distant at maximum burn." Marcus pulled up the ship system's display, already running modifications in his head. "We'll make it work. Reduce environmental temperature by 5 degrees. That'll cut consumption by 8%. I'll sleep in cold storage. That's another person's worth of oxygen saved. Extend the water recycling cycle and cut my rations in half. Captain Webb, Lyrian said softly, you would sacrifice for us. Marcus looked at her at the hope and disbelief in her alien eyes. That's what humans do, he said simply. We don't leave people behind. The journey to New Ganymede was brutal. Marcus kept his word. He spent most of his time in the cryopod, minimizing his resource consumption. When he was awake, he worked constantly, coaxing every bit of efficiency from the ship's systems. He rerouted power, adjusted mixture ratios, and performed maintenance that should have required a full dockyard crew. The Corvathi girls watched him work with a mixture of awe and confusion. Lyrian, recovered enough to move around, began helping with simple tasks. She learned quickly, her three-fingered hands adapting to human tool designs with surprising dexterity. Why do human ships always have so many backup systems? She asked one day, as Marcus replaced a failing oxygen scrubber with a component he'd fabricated from spare parts. Because humans are paranoid, Marcus replied, not looking up from his work. We build things expecting them to fail. Then we build redundancies for the redundancies. Then we figure out how to make the broken pieces work anyway. That seems inefficient. It keeps you alive. Marcus tightened the final connection and the scrubber hummed to life. Efficiency is great until something goes wrong. Then you want redundancy. On day 83, the youngest girl, she, finally spoke for the first time since boarding. Will they accept us? She asked Marcus in a small voice. At New Ganymede. Marcus paused his work. Yes, he said firmly, I'll make sure of it. But we are aliens, we are. You're survivors, Marcus interrupted. And New Ganymede was founded by survivors. They'll understand. The ship's AI chimed. Warning, oxygen levels at critical. 19 hours of breathable atmosphere remaining. New Ganymede is 31 hours distant. The girls fell silent, their bioluminescent markings dimming with fear. They had come so far, survived so much, only to fall short. Marcus pulled up the ship's schematic again. There had to be something, some system he hadn't pushed to its limit. His eyes fell on the emergency oxygen reserves, meant for hull breaches, for catastrophic failures. Using them for life support was against every regulation. Regulations were for people who had the luxury of playing it safe. Computer, route emergency oxygen reserves to life support. Full authorization. That action violates. Override, authorization Web 77 Tango, do it now. The emergency reserves kicked in, flooding the ship with precious oxygen. The atmospheric readings climbed back into the green. 43 hours of air, more than enough. Lyrian stared at Marcus. You just used your emergency supplies. If something happens now. Then we fix it like humans do, Marcus said, with duct tape and stubbornness. When the Redemption's edge finally limped into New Ganymede's orbital approach, it was running on fumes and fury. Every system was in the red, the ship held together by improvised repairs and willpower. But all 7 souls aboard were alive. The dockmaster's voice crackled over the comm. Redemption's edge, you are cleared for emergency docking. Medical teams are standing by. Captain Webb, what the hell happened to your ship? Marcus looked at the 5 Corvathi girls floating in the cargo bay, their bioluminescent markings pulsing with bright, hopeful colors. Alive. Safe. Just another day saving the galaxy, Marcus replied. Nothing special. As they descended toward the station, Lyrian floated over to Marcus. Captain Webb, she said quietly, why did you do this? We are nothing to you. We could not pay you. We could not help you. We were just 5 dying aliens in the void. Marcus met her multicolored eyes. Because someone once told me that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons or our ships. It's that we see a person in trouble and we can't not help, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's dangerous, even when it costs us everything." He smiled. "Welcome to the human race, Lyrian. You're one of us now." The 5 Korvathi girls looked at each other, their bioluminescent markings synchronizing into a single, brilliant pulse of pure joy. For the first time in 73 days, they were home. Not because they had reached a destination, but because they had been saved by a species that refused to leave anyone behind, no matter the cost, no matter the odds. That was humanity, stubborn, reckless, and absolutely unwilling to accept that some people couldn't be saved. As the Redemption's edge locked into its docking cradle, Kessie, the youngest, who had been unconscious during the rescue, spoke for the first time. "Thank you," she whispered to Marcus. "Thank you for not leaving us to die." Marcus just nodded, checking the final system readouts. The ship had given everything it had. It would need weeks of repairs, maybe months. But it had done its job. It had brought them home. "That's what humans do," he said again, more to himself than to them. "We don't leave people behind." And in the cold vastness of space, where 17 worlds had died and countless billions had been lost, that simple truth still mattered. 5 alien girls had pleaded with a lone human to save them, to take them with him. And the human, because he was human, had simply said yes.